Hello everyone and welcome to another video. I know that it's been a while since I uploaded anything on my channel, but unfortunately your girl has been busy. Your girl has a life outside of YouTube and I just haven't had time to make anything. But I know how much you guys love this series and I really love filming this series as well. So I am finally back with the third edition of my apartment hunting in Hong Kong series, this time with a higher budget and a much nicer houses. So I'm super excited to be making this video and I hope this video can be helpful to you guys as much as all of my past two videos have been. And if you've never seen any of my videos before, hi, my name is Ashley. I am I'm 25. Oh my god. I'm a 25-year-old living in Hong Kong and I've made two other house hunting videos so far and those have been on a more lower budget. So if that's what you're looking for, make sure to check out those videos as well. I will link those videos in the description box down below. And yeah, without further ado, let's get into the video, shall we? I'm sorry, before we actually get into the video, I want to mention two things that I get asked a lot in my comments and I just want to address it so that everything is clear. First of all of the prices that are mentioned in all of my videos are going to be in HKD, so in Hong Kong dollars. None of the prices are USD, so please don't get confused on that. And then secondly, I am not a real estate agent. If you guys ask me questions about what houses are available, what houses would you recommend, and anything along those lines, unfortunately, I cannot help you. I am not a professional, I'm not a real estate agent. This is just, you know, me sharing my journey of how I got my house. And if you need help with your houses, you can look at my previous videos where I explain how I actually got these houses, and by using those methods you can also find a house that fits your criteria. But if I go very briefly, I basically only use 28HSC, the app, for all of my house searching, and I'm sure that this app can be helpful for you. Just be patient. Like, I basically just scroll through 28HSC in my free time, and whatever like shows up that I like, I just went to view. So all of the houses, or most of the houses that I looked at, I actually looked at through one real estate agent. I haven't done this in the past. In the past, I always had a different real estate agent for each house that I looked at because that's just how it worked out. But the real estate agents that showed me the first few houses that I looked at were really nice and I really liked their vibe, so I ended up just sticking to them. Oh, and I totally forgot to mention this, but I'm not comfortable with disclosing the contact details of who the real estate agents were that I worked with, so I will not be talking about them or mentioning them or replying to your answers in the comments. But I hope that you also have a good luck finding nice real estate agents like I was able to. But yeah, I looked at most of these houses with the same real estate agents, and they are actually also the ones that I ended up signing the houses with, and I had a really lovely experience with them. Okay, so with those two disclaimers out of the way, let's dive straight into what I was looking for this time and basically why I moved out of my previous house. I started working full-time and I obviously had a bit more disposable income on my hand, and I knew that, you know, when I started working that I wanted to move into a bigger space. So the whole reason why I moved can pretty much be summed up into that I wanted a bigger space. So for me, like, I spend a lot of time at home and also I work from home a lot, so having a bigger space was very important to me. And I know that, you know, some people like to live in a smaller place so they can save a bit more money, but like I mentioned, like having a bigger home and having like my space that feels good and I can like be happy in is very important to me personally, which is why I wanted to move out to a better place. I totally understand that if that's not for you, but it was for me. So what was I looking for in this new house? So for this new house, I had a much higher budget. I wanted to pay anything between 10k to 12k HKD, which I know is a lot of money, but unfortunately we live in Hong Kong, okay? We live in Hong Kong and the rent is expensive, and if you want a bigger space, you just have to go over the 10k mark. So that is what I was looking for, but the max I was willing to pay was 12k. Aside from my budget, there were 4 things that I was looking for in all of the houses that I was looking at. First of all, I wanted at least a 1-bedroom. So I didn't really care if it was a 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, or even like 3-bedroom, which would be impossible, but I did not want to live in a studio. Like, I didn't care if the spaces were smaller or anything. Like, I wanted a separate living room and a separate bedroom. I don't know if you're gonna understand this if you have never lived in a studio before, but I wanted my living space to actually be separate from my bedroom. Like, I wanted to not be able to see my bed while I was in like the living room. Yeah, I really cannot explain any more than that. I just wanted at least a 1-bedroom, so that is what I was looking for. And if it ended up being like a 2-bedroom, obviously that would be a bonus, but I just wanted a 1-bedroom place. My second criteria was that it would need a lot of windows, if not a lot of good natural light. So if you've seen my first and second house hunting video, I mentioned this a lot, but having good natural light is so important, guys. Like, I cannot overstate this enough. The space can be small, the space can be whatever, but if there's good natural light, it makes it like infinitely better than the ones that are like super good on the inside but have 0 windows. Like, having natural light changes the way you perceive that space so much, and having no light really just makes it so fucking depressing. Like, you never want to be at home, and like, it's just bad. It's just not great. So it was really important to me that this house had a lot of windows and a lot of good natural light so that I could actually enjoy being in my space. And then my third criteria was a bigger kitchen. So I actually cook a lot at home. My boyfriend and I eat at home a lot. I also used to like pack lunches for the office, and one of the things I really want to do is to be able to have house parties where I invite my friends and be able to like cook for them. So it was also important to me that I had a bigger kitchen so that I would be able to actually cook without being frustrated. And then lastly, and possibly the most controversial thing, is that I wanted an empty house if possible. So when you look for houses, a lot of houses are furnished and a lot of houses are unfurnished. And I know that a lot of people want furnished houses so that, you know, they don't need to spend the extra money to buy new furniture and also have to worry about moving furniture when they move out. But for me personally, I wanted the choice to be able to decorate the house exactly how I wanted it. So even though I knew I would have to spend more money, I was willing to do that. And so I wanted an unfurnished house if possible. Like, if there was some existing furniture there, I didn't mind it, or if I liked the furniture, that would have been fine. But I was mostly looking at unfurnished houses when I was actually doing the house tours. So now that you know what I was looking for, let's dive straight into the main part of this video that I know you're here for, which are the house tours with actual rent prices. The first house that I looked at was in Quarry Bay, and this house was out for 13.5k. So you will notice that a pretty sure all of the houses that I looked at are over my budget, or they were out in the market for what was higher than my budget. But usually when you're actually signing for the house and putting in your offer, you can put in like a discounted offer, and a lot of landlords will be willing to give you a little bit of a discount, especially if you're like moving in immediately, or you can sign and give them the deposit immediately. So I did look for houses that are a bit higher with the intention to negotiate with them once I was actually signing for the house. This first house, I actually visited a few other houses that looked almost exactly like this house, and I didn't like all of them for the same reasons, being that first of all, the wood that is used in these houses are really yellow. Like, I am all for hardwood floors. I love good hardwood floors, but for some reason they all use this wood specifically that's like really yellow, and I don't know how it looks like on the video, but in person it really makes the space feel super old, and it's just not my vibe. So that was a big thing that I didn't like. And then for some reason the bathroom and kitchen tiles are also really weird. Like, they use a lot of like colored tile, and that also just wasn't my style. The layout of the kitchen as well, I thought it was like a little bit weird. There's no like stove or anything, and it just didn't make a lot of sense to me. And along that line, a lot of the appliances in this house was very old, so that also, you know, wasn't something that I really liked when I looked at the house. And this house specifically, to me, like the living room felt really small, and the layout of the house, like how the rooms were laid out, didn't really make a lot of sense to me personally. And yeah, I just couldn't imagine how I would like make the space look like that I would enjoy, and I didn't like it. And just like what I mentioned before about the furniture, this house has built-in furniture, but I did not like it. I don't like the built-in furniture. I feel like, you know, some of the stuff is like very unnecessary, or a lot of the houses will have like 2 bedrooms, which is like not what I want. So yeah, I ended up declining all of the houses that looked like this for all of these same reasons. And then now we move on to the houses that I actually kind of liked. So the second house that I looked at, so this place was a little bit bigger if I remember, and it was out for a more expensive price of 14.5k. The big thing was that the kitchen was really old and there was no appliances. So I immediately was kind of iffy as soon as I saw that. I did like the fact that the bathroom was spacious and also the living room was really big, but because the living room was bigger, the rooms itself were actually a little bit smaller, so I didn't really know how I felt about that. And I went to look at this place at night, but when I looked at the window, it seemed to me that you would not get a lot of natural light during the day in the living room. So obviously I think the rooms would get a lot of natural light, but given that, you know, the living room was like the main space and it didn't seem like it would get a lot of natural light, I did not end up going with this place for these reasons. But I did really like that generally the house felt really spacious and it was very clean. And then we move on to the third house that I saw, which was out for 13k on the market, and I immediately liked this place. As soon as I went in, even though it was nighttime, which like looking at houses in the nighttime are like not great because you can't, you know, see the natural light and whatnot, but like I liked it immediately because you could tell that the house had been recently renovated. All of the appliances were new, all of like the decor, should I say, was like new. So I liked it. It showed, you know, that the landlord cares. And also it's really funny because I noticed immediately as I was walking in that the sink was really big, which is a weird detail that you would think you would notice, but the sink in my previous house was so small that I noticed immediately that the sink was big, and obviously I liked it. I liked the kitchen and I liked that it was renovated, The things that I didn't like about this house though was that the bathroom was small. It didn't have a separate shower, which is very typical for Hong Kong, so I didn't really like that. And I thought that the room being like vertically long was also a little bit weird. Like in person, the house didn't feel small, but it just felt a bit weird, like a bit tight, I guess, which I didn't know how, you know, if I like loved it. And I wasn't 100% sure when I looked at this house, and with my real estate agent recommendation, I did come to look at it again during the daytime, and I did really love how much natural light this house was getting. But again, I just wasn't 100% sure, because even though, you know, I did like it, you know, there were parts of it that I wasn't too sure about, like the bathroom and then the layout of the house as well. The next house that I looked at was actually in Taikoo and not Quarry Bay. So I really liked the layout of this house. I thought that the layout made a lot of sense, and I knew immediately like where I wanted to put the bed, where I wanted to put my desk, and where I would like lay out like the sofa and all of that. So I really liked the layout. It made a lot of sense to me. But the big catch of this space is that the living room had no windows. And like I said, having a lot of natural light was important to me. But because like there was enough lights in the living room that I was wondering if I could like make it work, especially if I left maybe like the bedroom door open during the day or anything. But aside from that, which are actually very big pros, when I was looking at the house, you could tell that the house was old. Like the wall paint was old and there was like a bit of mold. I did talk to the real estate agents, and they did say that they're in the process of repainting the walls. So, you know, by the time I moved in, you know, possibly the walls could be repainted and then it wouldn't look as old anymore. And the other thing was that there was a school right next door, like right outside the window. Like you could see the school because the building is also not very tall. So I didn't know how I felt about that. Like I know that the windows in Hong Kong tend to be like thicker, but like I wasn't sure if it would be like loud. I wasn't sure if that would like bother me, having like kids running around right next door. And yeah, and while I was looking at this house, I also noticed that you could hear a lot of things that was happening in the hallway. So it seemed like the noise pollution level was gonna be a little bit high. But yeah, I really did love this space. I felt that the space was very big. The space felt really spacious, although it wasn't like a lot bigger by square feet compared to a lot of other places. And the bathroom was also really nice. The appliances felt functional, and the existing furniture in the house also felt functional, so I really loved that as well. The location of the place was really good, and just like in general, Taikoo is an area that I love, so I did really like it. But my biggest concerns were the window and also it just being a bit old, that I think I did end up putting in an offer, but they also weren't really willing to negotiate the price, and I wasn't willing to pay the same price for a house that wasn't going to get a lot of natural light and felt a little bit old. And then we continued to look at more houses in Taikoo. So this one, again, with the blue tile in the kitchen and the bathroom, like I don't get it. What is this with pairing yellow wood and blue tile? I don't know if these are all like owned and renovated by like the same landlord, or at least like the same company or something, but I really hated the blue tiles. I cannot emphasize enough how much I didn't like them. So immediately it was a no-go. If I talk about the other things as well, the living room again had no windows. Like it was spacious, but the window part was a big concern for me. The two of the rooms that I actually saw were quite large, and I did like that about it. And I liked the wood details in this house actually. Like there was a lot of storage, and you could tell that they put a care when they designed this house, and I did like that aspect of it. but there was no appliances in this house, so that was also kind of weird for me. Like there was no washing machine. Like obviously there are like laundry houses downstairs that you could use, but when you're living in a bigger house, like why would you go down to do the laundry? Anyway, and the biggest thing about this house is that it's actually in the monster building, so the building that I talk about, which is where I used to live in. And don't get me wrong, I have no hate towards that building, but this flat specifically was on the first floor, so you could see into, you know, the inside of the apartment. And given that this building is like obviously a very famous tourist spot in Hong Kong, there'll be a lot of people coming in, and you could just see people, you know, like I had privacy concerns when I was looking at the house. And yeah, I just couldn't get over the fact that it was on the first floor. So this house was actually a lot cheaper than the other houses that I looked at. It was out for 11.8k, and I'm sure if I negotiated it could have been even lower, but I know that this house was cheaper because of, you know, all of the aforementioned reasons of it being in a, not only a touristy house, but like on the first floor, and it's like an old building and stuff. So I don't know, I know it could have been cheaper, but like honestly the blue tile was one thing, but it being on the first floor in that kind of building was really like, I didn't feel comfortable with it, so I did not put in an offer for this house at all. And then the next house that I looked at was again back in Quarry Bay. This house was out for 14k. So this space was really spacious. This was a lot bigger than a lot of the other places I looked at, and I liked it. I have to say that the bunk beds were terrible, so I did not like it. I thought about like, can I work around this house, because I thought the living room was really nice, but honestly I would have like zero uses for having that bunk bed, and you wouldn't be able to remove it because it's like built in. I really did though like love the kitchen, and the bathroom was really nice. Again, you can tell that this space has been, you know, newly renovated, so it felt new, and I really like that about it. Yeah, aside from the bunk bed situation, the price was non-negotiable, so it was gonna be out of my price range anyway. And again, the thing with no windows in the living room was a disadvantage. So although the kitchen and the bathroom and the living room was like kind of nice, I wouldn't have gone for it anyway. And before we go to the final house that I looked at in this area, I want to mention that I also looked at houses in Lohas Park. So if you don't know, Lohas Park is sort of a new residential area off of TKO, and my boyfriend actually lives in that area, so I'm pretty familiar with it. And given that I obviously, you know, spend a lot of time with my boyfriend, I did consider, you know, maybe living there. I mean, I really like the area as well. It's like all very new, so that would have been nice. And I looked at a few different houses, but I'm just gonna combine it together and share my overall review of this place. Is that the rent is usually somewhere between like early 13k, maybe like 13,300 to like 14k, 15k, and all the way up. But the houses that I looked at specifically were between 13 to 15k. Generally speaking, the houses here are much smaller because all of the apartments are newly built, and the newly built apartments in Hong Kong are smaller than the older buildings in Hong Kong. So actually for me, I really don't mind that the building is old as long as the inside is renovated, because usually that means that not only is the rent cheaper, the space is bigger. So I didn't like that these places, like the spaces were really small. Given that it's a new building, the huge advantage would be that the amenities are really nice. Usually all of these buildings have like club lounges or gyms or pools, and that would have been nice. And you know, obviously the fact that because everything is newly built, all of the appliances and whatnot are, you know, super updated, so that would have been a really big plus as well. I did like the open kitchen layout and obviously the new appliances like I just mentioned, and I did like the views outside of the window, but the prices on these places are pretty much non-negotiable, and Lohas Park is a little bit far out of the way, especially considering I was working in Hong Kong Island at the time. And the house is so small compared to the amount of money you're paying. Like for me personally, it wasn't worth paying the amount of rent in this place without the space in return. Like if I were to live in like a better place, I wanted like a proper living room and an office, but the houses that I looked at, like you would barely be able to have a living room, and then the bedroom would also been really small, so you would not be able to fit in that much furniture for like this much money. Like I really just like was not willing to pay that much for this small of a space, so I did not put in any offer for any of the houses that I looked at in Lojas Park. But I do want to mention, in case you guys are interested in that, I do think that if you do have the budget for it, like it can be a really nice place to be in, especially if you just like live alone. But I have my boyfriend over a lot, and I also really want like my friends to come over, so for me it was a no-go. And finally, we move on to the last house that I looked at during my house hunt era, this third house hunting era. This house was in Taikoo. It was out for 14k on 28 HSE. This house, oh my god guys, this house was by far, like by an entire margin, my favorite in terms of the house itself and the location. The location of this house was fucking phenomenal, like chef's kiss. Like I loved where this house was, and even the inside, oh my god, when I went into the house, just like the natural light like came in, the space felt spacious and new and clean, and I loved it immediately. Like what can I say? I really liked it. Obviously this was only a 1-bedroom, but both the living room and the bedroom were very spacious, so you know, the fact that it was a 1-bedroom like didn't bother me at all. And the kitchen in this place was so nice and so big. Honestly, that was a huge plus for me. I really loved the kitchen here, and the fact that the kitchen had like open windows as well. And it was like a lot higher, it was up higher, so even though the school was also next door, like it did not bother me at all in this place. The bathroom was also super big, and yeah, like I said, the floor was on the higher side, so like you couldn't really hear what was happening like on the streets. I really just love this place so much. Like even though there are no windows in the living room, like because they had windows like on the top, like there was enough natural light coming in, and I felt that it felt really clean and like I just really love this place. But unfortunately they had no appliances. Like they didn't have a fridge, they didn't have a washing machine, like, and I would have had to buy all of that would I, you know, want to move into this place. And let me tell you that I actually really considered this place because I loved it and the location so much. And I put in an offer, and the offer I got back was 12.5k per month, which is a great offer. But the fact that I would have to buy a washing machine and like at least a fridge, and on top of that like furniture, I really thought about it, and I was so conflicted for the longest time. But I ended up not going with this place because not only was the final offer, even though it was a great offer, like above my budget already, I just didn't know if I was going to be able to afford buying appliances on top of needing to buy furniture for this place. So even though I love this place so much, and it would have been the house that I got would I have had a little bit more money, I did not go with this place. Then you might be asking the question, so which place did you end up getting? I don't know if it's obvious with the way that I explained the houses, but the house that I ended up getting is the third house that I looked at. So the one that I said I wasn't sure about because of the vertical layout. So I was really deliberating between that house and then the last house that I looked at because they were two of my favorites. But because I ended up getting a lower rent offer for this house that I'm currently in, I ended up going with it, and I've been living here for a few months now, and I can confidently say that I made the right choice. I absolutely love living here. The area is nice, like it's not as nice as like the other house, but it is still nice, and the layout of the house is actually doesn't bother me anymore now that I'm living here. And yeah, I really love the house. My landlord is also really lovely. I've been decorating it and living in it, and it really just feels like home, and I am so happy with the decision that I made. And yeah, that's it, guys. That's the end of my third apartment hunting series in Hong Kong. Thank you so much for joining me on this video. I know that this was a long one, but I wanted to provide as much information as possible. Again, if you want to know how to look for houses, I use 28 HSC, and if you want a more detailed explanation, I go through way more in detail in my older videos, so please check those out. And I know you guys will be wanting a full house tour of the house that I'm staying in, and believe me, I want to get you that video as well. I want to show off how well I've decorated my space, but unfortunately it will have to wait because again, I am busy and I just do not have the time. And there's still a few things that I want to like decorate in my space and get finished before I actually show it off to you guys. So I promise that I will try my best to get that video out to you soon. But thank you so much for joining me, and I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it was helpful. Please leave any questions or comments that you have in the comment section down below. I love to hear from you guys and hear that my video actually helped you. If you like this video, please consider liking it, and also subscribe to my channel if you want to see some more Hong Kong / house related content. I promise the house tour video of this flat is gonna come out soon, so if you want to see that, make sure to subscribe. And yeah, I guess that's it from me today. Thank you so much for joining me, and thank you so much for the love on this series. Like, as much as I love sharing it, like without you guys' support, I probably would have stopped. So thank you so much for your support. Thank you so much for your kind words, and I look forward to seeing you in my next video. Bye!